Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Another episode, Project 1 Ton. You can see I survived the wire wheel attack. This video, to get busy and put that pan in. Pulled the emergency brake mechanism out from under the dash. The easiest way to get the cable out, I thought. There's just one wire connector on the switch here, bolt through there, nut here, nut there. Then when I got it down, you can actually manually clock this back, shove a screwdriver in here, and a screwdriver in there, pop the cable out, and that's all good. And I just let it fall down through the floor. I had to grind the bolt off that held this clip on there because the nut was no good. So now the cable's out of the way. I still got a little rubber bit. I'll just tie wrap that up out of the way and then proceed to drill out the seat mount. In case I didn't mention it in that last clip, the rod for the release goes in here, so it just goes down through and this just clips over to the top. Really easy to take off. Now here, taking the wire wheel and gone around the mount, try to reveal the spot welds. I took 3 sheet metal screws or tech screws, whatever you want to call them, stuck one in there, and one in there, because if you watch my other videos, those will make permanent locators. Should something go wrong when I get this out that I got to replace something, I'll have at least those 3 points to put this seat mount back in again. Went around with the center punch, hit all the spot welds I could see for the moment. Now I'm going to drill them out with a 1/8 bit. Typically drill that out with just a bigger bit. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try a stepper bit instead. Cut away those spot welds. Now, word of warning, check what's underneath of where you're drilling out, because in my instance, frame rails like right here, and right beside it is a pair of fuel lines that I can't really move out of the way. So I got to be careful drilling out any of these spot welds in this area. I don't want to compromise a fuel line. Alright, so had a bunch of these drilled. I'm going to switch over to the step bit, see how that works. I'll let you know. And it's kind of obvious, I mentioned the fuel lines. That's why I'm not just hitting these with the plasma cutter like I did that spot over there. Oh great, here comes Fast Buchanan with a load of dirt. Stepper bit's doing pretty good. If you got one, it's not a bad option. Not everybody's got, bigger drill bits, kicking around you'd have to buy, but yeah, you might have one of these. Now the issue is finding the rest of the spot welds, because of all this rust and stuff I can't get cleaned off. Well, the option is the underside. Now I work with metal every day in an industrial situation. Spot welding creates electromagnetic field, and as such it reacts with different things. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's a spot weld there I can't see from the other side. There's a spot weld here, and there's a spot weld there, and there's a spot weld there. Just because of the reaction of the magnetic field, even though this truck's 20 years old, and the environment. So I'll drill these up from underneath so I can bore them out from the top side. Got most of this side all drilled out and freed up. The little trick I use is just a little small 2.5 inch putty knife. Now maybe there's a spot weld still right there, but I'm not sure. You can get that started under the edge. Now I've already wedged this under it because I've already checked it, but you can get started under the edge, tap it in with a hammer. You see how far it went in? There's no spot weld there. So you can kind of inspect areas with the putty knife. You see that corner's way up there. There's no spot weld there. So I only got a few left over here on this side, and then the mount will be out. Took me probably a little over an hour to get this out. Gonna need to repair it before it goes back in because there's not much left of right there, but it's good and solid. The underside here actually is really good condition, especially the nut plates. Now the pan, here's the pan. It actually rides underneath of the sill, so it sits about there somewhere. There's that seam there, so yeah, it sits about there somewhere. Don't think I'm gonna need it all. Probably be cutting this whole edge off along here where it meets up to the seam line here. Cut it off probably around here somewhere on the flat section, which will be along here, but keep the side portion here, which is actually the inner rocker, runs all the way through, and then probably end up chopping off the little bit of the lip here, because this is actually the spot weld flange up in there. Heat gun, box cutter, putty knife, wire wheel. Got all the seam sealer off up here, down along the edge here. Like I mentioned earlier, I think I'm going to come across about where the seat mount was, up this seam line, but leave the inside portion, like I said, that rib underneath the truck. So cut that off and then come across just before the actual cab mount under there, underneath this portion, and then under the sill, and down to here again. But I have to cut what's left of the cab mount away from the inner rocker. I'll have to repair that. I won't know till I actually get this piece cut away. Now I'm going to cut out a big section of the piece, but then when I cut this up, it'll lay on top, and I'll cut and weld it in like I did this patch back here. So maybe tomorrow. Now I've decided I'm going to go across right here, just behind where the seat mount bolt or welded on. I was going to say bolted, welded on. Now I have to find all the spot welds that are in the sill that hold the under section on. Just like back here, if you recall in the last video, I drilled 2 spot welds here in order to get the piece out from under here to duplicate it and put back in. So same thing going on here. Find all these spot welds, drill an 1/8 hole down through the middle, and then drill up from the underside with a bigger bit, just to release this pan, not to separate the entire sill from the 3 layers that are here. Then move forward, find these spot welds here, find the spot welds on the what's left of the cab mount here, get those all drilled out of the way. Then I can think about exactly where I'm going to slice this pan off. Okay guys, this is a good example of why it costs so much for a restoration shop to rebuild all those classic cars. This pan probably would cost $1,000 to put in, and it's all about labor, labor, labor. Not that it's hard to do, but it's very time consuming, and at $80, $90, $100 an hour adds up pretty quick, because this let me tilt you over here, this guy here mentioned earlier, like that was like an hour to get that out in in good condition that I can fix it up. It's not all bent to crap. It'll clean up and it'll go back in. But I'm trying to preserve. Let me flip you around here. Okay, I'm trying to preserve the body mount that's running across here. So, you know, I'm chipping away at it with a little hammer, a little bit at a time. Got a few spots drilled out. As rusty as that is, and decrepit as it is, if I can save it, I can reproduce it, like the piece I did for under here. Now things are coming along. You can see I've whittled this away, saving this feature like I talked about just a second ago. I'm gonna grab the cutting wheel, give this a little trim out here to kind of expose this area a bit. This I still gotta whittle away at, try to get this piece off without screwing up the mount underneath, and I'll be back. Now I gotta apologize for jumping back and forth between pieces of this this pan, but that's just the way it is. One thing leads to another, and then you gotta, you know, fix that before you go back to where you started. It is what it is, right? So this is all cut away. I salvaged all of this. It's rotted out here, but there's good metal there. So I'm gonna take out the larger section of this pan, get back to drilling out the rocker from under the sill. That'll get rid of this big section here, and then I can come back to this, believe it or not, and I'm gonna plate this in on the underside and follow this contour around, because I don't want to. That'll give me room. With this out of here, this will give me room to go back to work on this. And I think the mount, like on this section around here under the brake pedal, I think it's good. I'm hoping that I'll just be able to get away with plating in that side and this side, and then building the piece that's completely gone here, which butts up against the inner rocker once the pan's installed. Now I want to share this with you guys really quick. Hopefully this all makes sense to you. As shitty as this material is here, and basically just crumbles away, if you look in at, let me get up in here, where I started drilling out the inner rocker to the sill, the metal underneath is in absolutely fantastic condition. So literally within inches of this rotted out, flaking away material is solid sheet metal. So I got like a couple spot welds left. I just screwdriver under there. You don't need a lot of fancy tools. I try not to work with as many fancy tools as necessary. Just plain old tools. This is a dirty old screwdriver, was already broken. You know, wedge it under there. This isn't gonna work so good to do a demo, but anyway, you get your point. Goes under there, tap tap, break the rest of the spot weld free. Yeah, so that piece now out of there, back to the mount. I just ran over this quick, just scuffed it with the grinder. Now I'm just gonna cut a little strip. May put a bend in it. I might do this in 2-3 pieces, because it is kind of a funky little contour here. I think this is distorted from stress, so might be able to just make a piece that goes across here, turns up, goes across, and then just plug weld it in. There should be another spot weld probably here. Plug weld that in. That'll stiffen that all up, and then I can move forward to down in there. Yeah, so I just cut a strip, 1.5 inch, 16 gauge. I had to bend this a couple times. There's my first mark, there's my second mark, and there's where I ended up. Just kind of fits in there like that. It's nothing fancy. It's close enough. Now I'll just clamp that in, weld it up. Tacked in, looks good. I'll finish welding it up, grind it, trim off the excess, move on. So I'm thinking you guys are getting the point of what it takes to put in a pan. I'm going to chop away these pieces of mount that I don't need. unbolt the fender, see what's going on. This looks like it's solid up here, which is actually the up here, sorry, up there. That's actually the front of the pan. So if I don't need to use it, then I won't. If I can just put this section in here and then kind of bring it on an angle and then down and around, that's what's going to happen. Yeah, little update here. That's that little cleat that was on there. Got that off. And I got the work light out too. Haha, dark under here. And, you know, I'm half blind. So, this is good metal up here. Shit. This is good metal here. This is rotted out. I'm just going to trim this away. And then since I have the hole for the fender, and I think that's the same hole that's on the pan, use that to locate this, trim the edge of the new pan off, and just laminate it in this particular corner. I'll just laminate the pan in and then actually fit and weld the rest of the pan into the floor section. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Nice and shined up. I think it's time to start figuring out where I'm going to cut that pan. Now, to start with, I know I don't need this lip, nor do I need this section along here. So that's where I'm gonna trim it off first. I'm gonna follow right down the top of this radius and then just kind of lop it off across there. Now, looks like my first real cut, by what things look like, is going to be across here. I'm going to stay, I don't know, 3/4 inch above this indent and take this radius out of here. Now this is going to be my next cut. Take this out along here, crossed, take some more of this corner away. And remember though, guys, cut this piece out, and if it's not right, I can always give it a quick grind and I can tack weld it back in and cut it over again. Okay, calculated. My next cut is going to be right ahead of this screw hole, and it'll probably bring me up right along the edges, or if not, just inside of these two holes. Be alright. Okay, so the pan, I had to slit this here so you get it down in. Not a big deal. I got to do the whole rocker, so it doesn't matter. I can fill that little piece of floor after. This is in about the right spot, so that's looking good. Everything's looking good. I need to slit this here a little more, and that angled bit, trim another little bit off of it, so I got a little more welding room. And then I'm gonna refit it and see how it looks again. Things are fitting better all the time with every little trim. That's kind of how it goes. Don't want huge gaps to weld. This indent seems to, and these lines seem to fit nicely right into the floor. Socked a sheet metal screw in there. Now up in the front, I got like 4 clamps on here holding this front piece together, because it is an overlap going on in there. So what I'm going to try to do, shoot a sheet metal screw in about here somewhere, and that will be my second locator, and this will be more of a permanent locator up here. Then pull the pan one more time. I'm going to be doing this several times off and on, so I'm not going to bore you with any more fittings, but I'm going to have to trim the top off of here because this sticks up too far. The top of the mount is right up here at the edge, so I'm going to give myself a little more clearance by just trimming this off right above the indent here. And then, you know, like I said, slip it back in, check it some more, and then I'll cut this edge away to start with. Now, pretty much done with the fit up. I even drilled the holes in the edge for the plug welds. I threw an extra sheet metal screw in here, because I'm going to start cutting. I marked this with a scratch, and I start cutting this all out. And this will be my last locator here, along with the one up in the front of the fender. Now, here's a little something. I was hoping to leave 3/8 of an inch here so I could offset flange that so the pan would just sit on top of it, but the distance from here to the mount is too shallow, so I'm going to cut it off like I got it marked, and then see if I can maybe just put a little strip underneath, about down to there, as a backing plate the pan can sit on top of. I still got my sheet metal screw up in the front fender, but I added one to the sill here and here. That'll hold the edge of the pan in place. That's not going to move anymore. I'm going to get a tack weld on here, so I can pull this screw, get a screwdriver, pry this over, because this is an aftermarket pan. It is not exactly like the original. Once I get this pulled over, tacked in to position, I can start cutting along the edge on an angle and tacking it in and releasing the piece from the underside at the same time. Okay, so getting a few tacks on. It's looking good, it's fitting up not too bad. A little bit of an excessive gap here, not a big deal. I can fill that in. The situation is, this is a Chinese stamped aftermarket pan. Now I'm going to point this out to you. This floor comes down, and then it turns, and then it turns again, and then it flattens out. The pan, it comes up and it stops, and then it turns, and then it comes up flat again, and then it stops, and then it turns. So basically, you gotta beat this with a hammer down as I weld it in till it meets the floor where the original pan used to be. I got the pan all tacked in. This is the piece I cut out while I was welding that in at the same time. You cut in at like a 45, and then tack it and cut it and tack it and work your way around. Things fall into place like they should. These wheels, cutting wheel, got from Amazon, supposed to be 45 thou thickness. Measured them, they're 60. A little bit of an excessive gap and shit gets out of control. So got some big gaps here, not a big deal. I'll still be able to fill those in. Now, the weather. It was like 40 degrees Fahrenheit this morning. It's damn near 100 now. So I'm gonna quit. Come back this evening. Finish welding this in and grinding it up. The pan is all welded in, ground up. Got a couple spots here and there, a couple up there, had little pinholes. Just looking through from the underside for daylight, and then come back, pop some weld on. Just gotta grind those off, grind out this valley, and this pan is done. Now these are the chunks that I took out, there and there, as I put this piece in. So I think that's it for this video, guys. Hope it helps somebody out who's thinking about putting in a pan. It's not that it can't be done. You just gotta think about what you're doing and take your time. So yeah, that's it for this video. Next video, get to work on the rocker, inner rockers, finishing up the cab mounts, fixing the seat mount, and installing it back in its position. So till next time, guys, peace.